for being here for Mississippi Seafood Labeling Law Forum. We're going to walk through a slide deck in just a few minutes, talk a little bit about House Bill 602 and how it applies to the industry. My name is Patrick Levine. I'm the Chief Operations Officer here at the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, and I want to introduce some of our staff to you. First, I'd like to introduce Colonel Wilkerson. He's in the front from Office of Marine Patrol, Lieutenant Colonel Jex. Next to him, got Captain Jack Ewan and then Lieutenant Chris Collins. These two guys are both going to play a very critical part in the seafood labeling law, working with the Office of Marine Patrol and Department of Agriculture. Back in the back, we have Christina Broussard, and thank you, Christina, for being here. She is from the Seafood Technology Bureau, so you may be seeing Christina also. We have our Chief Scientific Officer, Rick Burris, and so Rick, thank you for being here, and then a handful of other folks. I know that we have some individuals that are joining us online. Thank you for taking the opportunity to join us today. I want to say this: you may not be here to be able to submit or to ask a question. We do want you to submit your questions, and you can do that through seafood labeling at dmr.ms.gov on that slide, and you can scan that QR code that will bring you to the seafood labeling portion of the website. Our Chief Scientific Officer, Rick Burris, is going to be monitoring the questions as they come in. If we have any, before we close out today, we will address every question that comes in off the internet. I also want to say that while questions have been coming in the previous two forums that we've had, we have updated the frequently asked questions portion of the website, and would encourage you, even if you've been there before, to take a look at it today because it has changed. If you need to use a restroom, straight up the ramp here to the right, you'll find the restrooms that are there. Be sure to step out at any moment. We'll make sure that we catch you up on any information. I want to thank a couple people as we navigate this, Director Spraggins and then Commissioner Gibson, both, because we have a partnership with the Mississippi Department of Agriculture to navigate this piece of legislation. I know that both the Commissioner and the Director, they want this to be as seamless as possible and the transition to go as smooth as they can. So thank you to them. Thank you for the people that have put their work into making this process move forward. As we talk through things, I do want to draw attention to a part of the legislation that talks about a task force. So inside of the bill, there is the creation of a task force. That task force is going to exist to be able to make suggestions for future legislation, suggestions for regulation, and then also for marketing and how to get the information out to the public better. It's going to include the governor or his designee. It's going to include the director of the Department of Marine Resources or his designee, the commissioner of agriculture or his designee. It's going to have somebody from the Mississippi Restaurant Association, the director of tourism, a commercial fisherman, and a seafood processor. And so we want to make sure the restaurants are represented, tourism, and then also the fishing industry on how we can move better in the future. So all of the questions that have come up, we've been documenting everything. I know that we'll have opportunities to discuss it more in the future. And that task force is being created to be able to start having those conversations. So what is House Bill 602? It was enacted to increase seafood transparency and customer confidence. It's designed to help consumers make informed choices about the seafood they purchase. It'll support America's domestic seafood industry, and it goes into effect today. When you think about when it's going into effect, it's going into effect on July the 1st. I like to think about something that the director said just the other day. I know some people are like, I'm not quite ready yet. We're going to work with you. We want everybody to, be able to start taking the steps necessary to make sure consumers are able to make an informed decision. The bill has this language that is, it can make things clear. It says, in no way shall you misrepresent to the public the product that you're selling. They need to be able to make an informed decision on what they are purchasing. They need to know. They don't need to think about, well, is it this or is it that? They have the right to know what they're putting in their mouth, and they should know what it is and not have to guess at what it is that they are purchasing and what it is they are consuming. They need to be able to know. And so the intent of the law, when it goes to the intent, when you think about the restaurants, the resellers, the wholesalers, the processors, whenever you're labeling your product, whenever you're promoting your product, whether it's raw product or it's cooked prepared product, whatever it may be, the consumer needs to know what they're getting. And that's the intent of the law. We've been asked the question several times, is this the entire state of Mississippi? And yes, the answer is the new law will be enforced in all 82 counties of the state. Who's responsible and what needs labeling? This applies to processors, wholesalers, retailers, seafood dealers, restaurants, and food trucks. It's all seafood. Saltwater finfish, crustaceans, mollusks. It excludes catfish. It does include crawfish, and so crawfish is in here. All seafood and crawfish sold in Mississippi is required to be labeled as domestic or imported. Labeling must appear on menus, packaging displays, ads, in a font that's equal to the product name. So they have to be able, I want to go back, they need to be able to make an informed decision on what they're purchasing. Through a menu, through signage, somehow, some way, you need to make sure that my customer knows exactly what they're getting, to be clear. We're going to talk about the definition of what's imported. If it's harvested, raised, or processed outside the United States, even if foreign product is processed in the United States. So if you have foreign product from outside the United States, you process or change the state of it in the United States, that does not make it a domestic product. It's still an imported product. Processed and imported product does not make it domestic, nor, changing the state. If I take, for example, a product that I'm mixing a seafood salad and I have some imported crab and I bring it here and I mix it with some ingredients and then I put it out there because it was mixed with some American ingredients or it was prepared here, that does not make it domestic. It's still imported product. What is domestic? If it's harvested, raised, and processed in the United States, if the entire life cycle of that product occurs on domestic soil, it's domestic product. There are situations where I had somebody call the other day, they serve product that they know is it's domestic, it's shipped overseas, it's processed overseas, and it's shipped back. Once it leaves here, it becomes imported product. It's no longer domestic product. If it's processed outside of the United States, it then becomes imported product. The entire life cycle of the product has to be here. Notice it says if it's harvested, raised, and processed in the United States. We've had people ask the question, all right, what about those situations where, something may come in from a foreign country and it's shipped into the United States and they offload it here, after it's been harvested in another country and it's brought here and it's landed in the United States. It's imported product, okay? That's imported product. We're going to give some examples, and the first one is a prepackaged example. We've had several people ask about country of origin labeling. Will that suffice? In some situations, when it's on the package, like if you see there on your screen on the left, you can see where it says that it's farm-raised, a product of India. It has the country of origin on the package, and on the front it says large raw shrimp. All right. For packaging purposes, it will satisfy the law. But when it comes to the end user, whoever I'm providing that product to, they have to know if it's domestic or imported, and they have to be able to make an informed decision. So over on the right side of the screen, you see that sign on that freezer. It says imported shrimp. The product that's in there there's an expectation of the product in that freezer, it's going to be imported. What if I serve both products? What if I have imported shrimp and domestic shrimp? You can have on one side of the cooler product that says imported. On the other side, there may be a door that says domestic. You have both products available. What you can do is make sure you're doing the best you can to inform the consumer of the product that they're getting. Some other examples. You see there this counter with different fish species in there, and it says domestic seafood. There's an expectation by the consumer that everything in that ice bin is domestic. There's a general statement. They don't have to label every species, every fish. If everything there is domestic, they're making a proclamation and they're declaring that everything is domestic. Over on the side, you see Gulf oysters domestic. Same thing. You can have it Gulf oysters domestic. It can say oysters domestic, but as long as there's just this clear label that the consumer is able to see. When it comes to signage options, you can approach this, with the thought, can I have one general statement that we proudly serve domestic seafood? We had a food truck that reached out to us for the first meeting. Food truck said, the only thing I serve in my food truck is domestic product. Can I have one statement on the side of my food truck that says I only serve domestic product? The answer is yes. But here's the deal. If you're going to make that proclamation and you're going to say everything in there is domestic, then you need to make sure you document that all your documentation and the product that you're serving is what you say it is, and it all has to be domestic. Okay, so you can have a general statement such as we proudly serve only domestic seafood in a prominent spot instead of labeling every menu item. Now, we've had people asking the question, what about import? If everything I serve is import and I want to put a sign in the lobby when I walk in that's very clear that everybody can see that says we only serve imported product, seafood products, would that suffice? As long as the consumer is able to make an informed decision on the product they are purchasing. They need to be able to know. If the decision is made from a menu, it must be placed in a prominent location on the menu. Example, seafood dishes, all imported. You don't want it just down in fine print on the bottom. Once again, you know what it would be like if you went in someplace and you're trying to decide what I want to purchase. Am I able to make an informed decision? Am I able to look at, if it's the menu that I'm making my decision on, can I look at that menu and maybe somewhere up front it says everything on this menu is imported? Or if you break it out to where it's domestic and it's imported and it's itemized, can they make an informed decision? I can't say that enough to make sure if you were the customer coming in there, would they know what they're purchasing? Another example, a lot of times you'll see this at restaurants, or maybe a blackboard. I had the opportunity to talk to a local restaurant group this morning, and they were asking about blackboards in the lobby of their restaurant. And in that conversation, it was very clear. Well, is the consumer going to be able to see the blackboard? Will they know? Will they be able to make an informed decision? Because we understand, like one individual said just the other day, he said, one day I have domestic, the next day I have import. It's hard to put that on the menu. Well, you could put it on a flyer, attach it to the menu. If you had a sign, somewhere you can put it to where when things are changing, once again, the consumer is able to make an informed decision. And here's some examples there. Today's menu, $25 grouper sandwich domestic, coconut shrimp, $15 imported, and then there you see $18 a fried oyster basket domestic. Whenever you have mixed seafood product, crawfish, and origin dishes where there's just kind of this, a little bit of everything, what do? You can put that it's imported and domestic. You can label it as both. And often that's one that we've had a lot of questions on, because all of those products in there mixed together, it changes quite a bit. Do I have to include domestic or imported on a billboard or website not on my property? The designation is required on site in a prominent location. So if you have a billboard that highlights seafood at such and such restaurant, you don't have to put domestic and imported on there, but wherever somebody's making that decision on the product that they are purchasing, they have to be able to know. If they're ordering off of your website and they go to your website and they want to place an order online, if you have a seafood product on there, they need to know whether it's imported or domestic, or somehow they need to be able to make a decision on the product that they're purchasing from that point of sale. If it's online, if it's on their cell phone, if they're going through a third-party vendor, however it is where the consumer is making a decision, they need to be informed. Can I use the country of origin to label seafood or crawfish in lieu of the terms domestic or imported? If you want to put something on there, such as a good example may be, Rick, can you give me a good example of a product that you would want the name? Argentinian red shrimp. So that very clearly tells somebody that's a product of another country. Okay, so all these questions have been coming in. Remember the intent behind the law. What is your intent? The intent is to inform the consumer. Can I use abbreviations such as IRD or other symbols in place of import or domestic? No. You need to make sure it's clear. So what would an inspection look like? Once again, you'll have the opportunity to meet Colonel Wilkerson and some of his staff, and we'll be working with the Department of Agriculture. Whenever they come in and see a restaurant, if you have a menu or a sales display that says domestic, what we need to do is verify. I go back to document. The inspectors, they're going to see your menu, and our goal is to come when it's not busy. We want to do our best to not inconvenience anybody, and so find those opportunities when there's not as many cars in the parking lot. Go in and do an inspection and look at how you're advertising your product. And if it says domestic, we should be able to look at your receipts and your bill of lading, look at the product that you have in the cooler. If everything's domestic and it's labeled domestic there, it should be pretty smooth. Now, if we go in there and you have an inspector, he sees that everything's labeled domestic, you open up the cooler and everything in your cooler is in a foreign language, he may start having some conversations with you and ask you what's going on. All right, so there's some inspection forms. You'll get the owner's information. You'll get some basic information doing an inspection. And the bill also allows for to collect samples for laboratory testing and species identification. In most cases, I want to say this, in most cases, we will make sure we have a conversation. In most cases, there's not going to be somebody that's just going to walk in, plain clothes, take a sample and leave. The intent is to notify the owner of the establishment only when there are those bad actors who just may need some other attention because they don't want to inform people. That's the only time that, they may not know a test is being done, but the business will be notified that a sample is taken because guess what? Sometimes you may think you're serving domestic product and you're not. And thankfully, this legislation addressed that. Any good faith reliance claim must be supported by the appropriate evidence of the documentation from the supplier. We had somebody the other day, I guess it was the first meeting, somebody said, my supplier won't tell me country of origin. And my only answer to that was, I don't know that I would want to do business with them if they don't want to tell me where my product is coming from. Make sure you have documentation of where your product is coming from. If they tell you it's domestic product, you advertisement as domestic product, what that's going to do is the inspector is going to say, sure enough, I see right here that, Patrick told you that was domestic product. I need to go pay Patrick a visit. It's a good faith reliance claim. So consequences of violations. The first time you make a mistake, The first time you make a mistake, uh, you're going to be given written notification, 3 days to correct the violation. And then after that, you can see all the subsequent steps that are there. What if I make the same mistake over and over and over again? Well, that's not the intent here. It's to take corrective measures and move on. You may fix it on the day the inspector comes there. You fix it, he leaves. You notice he's gone for a little bit. You go back to doing things the old way. That doesn't mean you're going to get another 3-day warning. Okay, this is just making sure that everybody's informed. What are my steps to compliance? Audit all seafood. Make sure you know your product, know what you're serving. Start looking at what you have. I hope you've already been doing that prior to today, but knowing the origin, knowing the sources, knowing how you can inform the public of what you're selling. You need to update menus, packaging, sales displays, or any form of advertisement prominently available to the public with appropriate labels. In no way should you misrepresent to the public what you are selling. In no way misrepresent to the public what you're selling. Train your staff. One of the things it mentions in there is they shall not be verbally misled. So if you have some waitresses or waiters, you have your staff that are out there, just teach them, hey, if they don't know, go ask. I would make sure they know. Don't answer a question. If you don't know for sure, don't tell somebody it's domestic if you don't know it's domestic. Keep supplier documentation. Document. Once again, I introduced you all to Captain Ewing and Christina Broussard. If you would like a courtesy inspection, we'd love to just come sit down, walk through what you're doing. We can spend some time at your restaurant, whatever establishment you have, and do a courtesy walk through and just have a conversation one-on-one. We are welcoming those conversations, and I'm thankful to say we've had some people who have taken us up on that, and they wanted to have somebody come by. You can call 228-523-4142 for that, 228-523-4142. Or you can go to seafoodlabeling@dmr.ms.gov and send an email. Or you can go to dmr.ms.gov, click on seafood labeling, and there's a tab there. You can click on request a courtesy inspection, and somebody will be in touch with you. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible to say, hey, we need some help here, and we would like a courtesy inspection. For more information, you can go to dmr.ms.gov /seafood labeling. You also see that QR code there. You can scan that. And I want to say it again. We've been updating the questions and answers, and we will continue to update it. So as questions come in, we're trying to make sure we're updating so everybody gets the same answer. I want to introduce to you for a minute our Chief Scientific Officer, Rick Burris. Rick's going to help with questions and answers. Rick, did we have any questions come in online? No questions yet. Do we have any questions here? You got them all answered. Sure. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Any other questions? Before we close out, Rick, will you check one more time? Make sure we've not had any questions. Okay. Well, we're going to close this meeting. Thank y'all for being here.